Well, it's Sunday and 6 o'clock or 6:05. You're listening to us right now, and I love Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. And, we get a chance every week just to talk about some really amazing things that are going on in politics, education, religion, technology, sports, values, and human communities and healthy communities, and having, just conversations about some exciting things that are taking place. We've got a special guest today. I'll be introducing him in just a minute, but you can also get Good News with Larry Powell, nothing but good news stories, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock right here on KXEX 1550 AM. We're really blessed to have this station in the community so that we can get messages out about a lot of good things going on. And as you know, yesterday we talked about human trafficking, and if you missed the show, you can go to Spotify and simply put in Powell to the People. Now, there are several Powells to the People. Look for the one with my picture, and it's all in yellow, and you'll get a chance to see any of the episodes that you've missed. A lot of good things. Share those with folks. We just love to get the message out about the good things that are happening right here in Fresno. And today I've got with me a good friend of mine, Skip Hanson from Lifelong Learning, co-founder. And, Skip, you've done an awful lot of things, and we're going to talk about that. But I want to talk about you and me and some of the things we've done over the years and how we got together. So how did we first meet?
Well, I think, when we were expanding our operations outside of originally in LA County, Fresno was a market that was near and dear to my father-in-law, who actually helped start the original
Dante Simi,
developer here in Fresno years ago, Sigma Chi,
and a Fresno State
grad. He got the big award, with the Bulldog Award.
He was a top dog.
That's right. I remember coming out. So when we came in here to put our first charter school, one of the things you have to go through and open up a school is making sure you're connected with all the folks that are in charge of everything.
Yes.
In the education space, and as County Soup, that's how we got to know you.
We got a chance to do some business together, and boy, it's turned out to be just really fantastic. But you also have, not only is Dante a Fresno State grad, but you have a couple of sons that are here, and that got you to move from Lancaster to Fresno.
That's exactly right. Yeah. My oldest, after looking at a lot of schools, I think his grandfather had a little bit of influence.
I bet he did.
Fresno State. He was looking at quite a few different schools, and I think when he came out here, I think he was enamored by the fact that Fresno State had a football team, and it was one of the few colleges he was looking at that really felt like it was a school he could be a part of a community, including the football. I went to UC Irvine, and I told him one of the things I missed going to that school. It was a great school, is it didn't have every Friday night or Saturday football event that kind of brought a lot of people together. And my first game I went to, I was like, I'm sold. This is a great school. So it was a good fit. And then my youngest, Travis, he was a pretty good football player in high school, and was being recruited.
I remember all the stories.
They're one state. They're little. It was a decent sized private school. In the Antelope Valley, and so Fresno State showed some interest, brought him out. We did a couple tours, and he ended up being a preferred walk-on in the school as a long snapper and a defensive lineman. And so that's once he moved out here, we had both boys in Fresno. We're like, hey, we're ready to sell our house, find out what we want to do. We're renting right now, waiting to see where they end up, like most parents.
I love it.
We pot commit somewhere.
So what did you think about Fresno when you first got here?
I used to make fun of a friend of mine who, when we were living in Lancaster, moved out to Fresno. And said, well, what would you live in that place for? My only, I guess the only thing I knew about Fresno is what I saw off the 99.
Right.
And I think that's
that's not a good view.
It's not the best view. And it wasn't until they had their family and went through the Clovis school system, actually, that I came in and got to see the inner workings of Fresno. And what I love about Fresno is its location. We're big, my wife and I are big campers and hikers. And so
you love the outdoors.
Oh, I just love the outdoors. It's proximity to it, and the people. My goodness, it's a big yet small community. A million people. We had 250,000 in Antelope Valley. and I thought that was pretty good size. But this is a big area.
It is,
and I like the people. I
Yeah.
really enjoy the people.
Well, and we've had the good fortune to be able to golf together and do some professional things together as well. But it really is a great place to live and a great place to raise a family.
Yep.
I love Fresno State. I graduated there as well. And I love where we're headed. And now that we've got, a change in football coaches and heading back, a different direction again. But I'm looking forward to what's going to happen. It's going to be good. And we're really excited about it. But your background wasn't in schools. I know you were in sales and you did a lot of stuff. You were with some Fortune 500 companies. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I had I got out of college, thought I was going to be in real estate, just like Dante. And,
Yeah.
I got my real estate license, I think it was 91, and thought that was it. I was going to make a lot of money in real estate. And, timing's everything.
It is.
And right when I graduated, the market back in then took a
I
huge
remember.
dive.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the company I was working for, Marcus and Millichap, really, I saw that it was going to be a rough couple of years trying to earn as a, newly married,
Oh,
just
yeah.
got out of college. And so a friend of mine got me a job with actually Veneer Graphics. What's funny is if you ever watch The Office,
Yes.
we were The Office before it came out. We had a branch. We were selling green bar paper for those listening who were old enough. Remember dot
Oh.
matrix printers?
Yes,
the
of
green
course.
bar paper.
I remember that stuff.
Reams of it.
Yes.
And
Stripes.
and everything was forms. And so I had a territory in Newport Beach, California, and got to sell in an office doing that. So I got my chops selling, and I've had about 9 jobs. Just in sales, you're just somebody recruits you.
Sure.
They like what you can do, and they want to move you to the next one. At some
Well,
point during,
you're a good speaker. You're a
love
good
to
talker,
talk.
and you like people.
Yeah,
And so when you're selling something, and you didn't sell things that you didn't believe in.
that's right.
If you believed in your product, you were going to work for them, and that carries over to when folks are talking to you. They're going, "Yeah, I like this."
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
It's
Well, in
probably the key.
that journey, I ended up with a couple of big companies. One of them, GE, and
Oh, yeah.
and they were Jack Welsh, one of my favorite guys.
I've heard quotes from you about him.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. He was a great mentor to the whole organization. But he committed to Six Sigma in process improvement.
Yes.
I was really excited about when I heard it was coming through our company. Motorola had first started it out there in Arizona, where I was living at the time.
Yes.
We moved from Newport, and got to go through green belt training. I was on my way to black belt training, and we basically it's trying to take and look at a process. So if you were on a production line and you were to produce 1 million things, you would get to Six Sigma if you could get it down to 6 defects
Yeah,
per
exactly.
million opportunities, which
Yep.
would be perfect, right? It's almost never be 100%, but the only company to actually reach it within the GE family was GE Aircraft Engines.
Interesting.
Good for us. 'cause
And I'm
we don't-
glad that we
Yeah,
fly, and you fly a lot.
That's right. So we don't want our planes falling out of the sky. But what it used was a process called DMAIC: Design, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control. And it was just a really cool way to look at any process, right? And it can be in any industry, as we'll take it back to education,
Yeah.
and just see what's broken, and then you look at the end result. We have, one of the black belt projects I was on invoicing. We were basically writing off millions of dollars at GE every year on
Right.
bad invoices, and it was all a process back way back in how we inputted it. We knew it, but we had to go through the process, and ultimately the end result was we created a team of people to look at it, figure out how to fix it, and then we fixed it.
Yeah.
And of course that's what we ended up.
And education, it was once stated that the only thing you remember about education is that nothing ever changes. That if you die and come back, you'd recognize education
right.
50 years later.
That's right.
But you brought an attitude to learn for life, lifelong learning and learn for life about charter schools that really was a whole different kind of thing. How do we maybe do some of the things you learned in GE, and how do we apply those to education?
That's right.
But also keeping that human contact, and relationship thing going as well. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I came in, my father-in-law, Dante, and his partner started the first one in Lancaster, California. It was a school literally to serve about 50 kids. That's what they thought. It was another gentleman they helped start with, and this particular gentleman was in the education space and said, hey, there's these kids in our system here in the Allen Valley that just don't have a home.
Right.
Pregnant teens, foster care youth, a couple other groups of kids that
Out on the streets.
Out on the streets. And the key component of why it didn't fit in the Antelope Valley's education system, which is typical around the whole state, comprehensive high schools, a continuation high school, some other high schools that maybe deal with CTE or career technical, that kind of thing, but nothing to serve these kids. The component that was making it difficult for them was time.
Yes.
If a young girl gets pregnant as a freshman and they drop out to raise their baby, their box, called a freshman box, keeps going to the next box, sophomore box, and you're 14, and then you move to the next box, you're 15 and a half, whatever, and it keeps going. Well, if you get off that train, in that process to raise a baby, or a young man who's got to get a job to help raise that baby, when you want to come back, your box has moved on. And that box is a sophomore box,
all
but
the kids
your credits are in the freshman box. So you got to go into this other box called the continuation box, and that's where we typically put kids that were expelled or in trouble, and not necessarily always the best teachers. So kid drops out, and so they're on the street. So the entire model of our Learn for Life schools was geared towards creating a personalized schedule, just like college, right?
Yeah.
When I went to college, I worked Tuesdays and Thursdays to help pay for college, working at a flower shop, and I went to school Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Right.
And that's how I set my schedule. Well, why can't a high school student, right, have
Do
a
the same
similar
thing.
program?
Yeah.
We're already trying to train them, get them ready for college anyway.
I love
So
it.
the experience was there. But our methodology, the way we get paid as public schools, it's all about, having your rear
Seat
end
time.
in the seat.
Yep.
And they don't get paid for that.
Yep.
So, I came in and immediately saw, this is how we're going to use processes to replicate these schools we were creating, which, by the way, weren't in a traditional setting.
And meet the needs of kids. Hold
That's
that
right.
thought. We're
You
going to
bet.
come right back. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Powell to the People. Write it down.
Thanks for staying with us, Facebook folks. We just love having you as an audience. Be sure and share what's going on. Send this off to your Facebook friends, and they'll learn some really good things on our deal today, because you got Skip Hanson with us, and we're going to learn about charter schools and the good things that are happening for a lot of kids.
On the best talk in town.
Hey, welcome back. And you are listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. And Skip, it's really good to have you with us. A lot of people think charter schools, maybe they're just for the down and out kid. Maybe they're for the elite. I mean, there's a wide range of thoughts. Started in 1992, 91 here in California. And you guys were so perfectly situated for COVID and things. And you've been talking about the boxes that kids get stuck in. Okay, I'm in box for 9th grade, another box for 10th and things. What happens with charter schools, especially with Learn for Life charter schools and the things that you're promoting? You were perfectly situated for those kids that couldn't be in school every day but needed school. And man, almost the whole state went to a system like you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how things come full circle, right?
They do.
We were told when we first put our school up, the original comment I heard from everybody, even politicians who I'd go visit and tell about our schools, is kids need to be in school 5 days a week. What are you talking about? You got a school that kids are only there a couple days a week. That can't work. What are they doing when they're not in school? And I'm trying to explain. If they came and talked to our kids, they'd hear that they're working. They have a baby to raise. We're almost 73% Latino in most of our locations. Lots of brothers and sisters. Some of them take care of their youngsters, brothers and sisters.
Amazing,
when they're still trying to go to school or they're working. Right? Because we're still talking about one of the base problems for dropouts, which is poverty.
Yes.
Right? Poverty still rules why a lot of kids are dropping out of school, and it's really just part of the equation.
Yeah.
So, what we were, when COVID hit, I remember, our whole group had a real quick call saying, "Hey, we've got to figure out what to do." there was that 2 weeks to slow the curve or whatever it was.
Yeah, we'll be back.
Yeah,
in 2
we'll be
weeks.
back in 2 weeks, but we had
Year
to plan
later.
for the worst. And I just remember, all of our people scared to death. Like, well, what are we gonna do? Our kids at the time didn't have. We weren't a laptop school, right? We were.
Right.
Our kids, come in, they meet with the teacher one-on-one. This isn't classroom environments. This is kid has an appointment with their teacher.
Right.
They come meet with them. They can certainly stay as long as they like. We have all kinds of great programs to wrap around these kids. But, ultimately to try and hand a kid a laptop who's at risk, especially if they're living in neighborhoods where, maybe they don't have access to internet.
Right.
And that kind of thing. We had to quickly pivot, but that's the kind of school we are. We're already a little alternative to begin with. So I think within the course of the first 3 months, we spent about $8 million of some of the money that was handed down to get through there. We handed out somewhere in the neighborhood of something like 12 or 15,000 Chromebooks and hotspots to go with it for internet connection.
Sure, because many of those kids and families didn't have that.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
didn't
And
have it.
a story down in San Diego, our school down in San Diego, we had a lot of kids crossing the border before COVID whose parents live in Mexico.
Right.
But they're a U.S. citizen because they were born here in the U.S. And
Right.
so they're walking across the bridge.
So they're going back and forth.
They're going back and forth to
Yeah.
our school in Chula Vista. But when COVID hit, the borders got stopped. So getting that kid a laptop or a Chromebook was
A
process,
lifeline.
right? Yeah, we had to go across borders and with a truck and try and get that kind of thing delivered and still allow those kids. We had a great story of a little snippet we did in a movie that we have of a student who
I saw that
basically
movie.
came
And
to
it's
the.
fantastic.
It's amazing.
Yes.
And, so
Yes.
this kid crossed the border to a Starbucks every week to get internet connection to finish their high school diploma with us.
Amazing
stuff.
story.
Yeah. So we were, long story short, we figured it out much quicker than a lot of them. Our teachers were already sort of in an environment where they weren't in classrooms anyways. So
Right.
we weren't on the front lines as badly as some of the schools who had full classrooms with 35, 40 kids
Right.
sometimes. So we pivoted, but the funny part to your point is, forever we were told kids can't learn in this blended environment. And now that's the talk, right?
Everybody
Every
was in a
school
blended
district is
environment.
rethinking.
Yeah.
Even when COVID hopefully is gone soon,
Yeah.
that they will probably always have these blended options for kids because
Right.
what they're finding is parents like it.
They
You
do.
know, they do. They just do.
And some still are afraid of what's going on in schools, whether
Right.
it's COVID or other
That's right.
things, bullying or
You bet.
whatever. And this provides an option for them that is absolutely remarkable. Now, I've been in many, many, many of your schools. And how many do you have in California?
We're over 80 locations.
Yeah. And you've also extended it now nationally,
Correct.
maybe internationally,
Yes.
because you've got kids that are coming to your schools all over the place now.
That's
You've
right.
got several states that you're in.
Michigan, Texas, Ohio, South Carolina, soon to be Florida, and hopefully a couple more states that we're going to add to the list.
Yeah,
this next couple
Texas,
years.
pretty amazing when you think about it. And COVID kind of forced you to think a little more outside the box as well, because California was taking a whole move away from the kind of schools that you offered, and yet we had so many kids that needed this kind of school that you offer in a charter school. And right here in Fresno at Crescent View Charter School in Manchester is one of your, ideal spots that if you come in and visit it, folks, let me tell you something. If you came and visited it, you would think, I'm in a college setting. I'm in an environment that is absolutely amazing. It's safe. You get checked in and checked out. You got somebody at the front desk. It's not just anybody who walks in and out, but it's an amazing thing. And if you see the interaction with the kids and the teachers, they get an individual education plan for every kid, and they can stay in a center part there where they can work and get extra help. And it's an amazing place.
It is. The constant question I still get today after charter school's been around since 1991, is what does it cost? It's amazing to me that people don't understand. We're a public school.
It is a public
We're
school.
sponsored by local school districts and great partnerships with our schools here in Fresno. Not always the case in California with a
Right.
lot of charter schools, but because we're serving a lot of kids who traditionally aren't doing well in the public school system, to no fault of Fresno Unifieds or Clovis's, kids just they drop out, they get behind, that life gets in the way, and instead of, what used to happen is those kids just hitting the street, our 8-10 locations here in Fresno
Yep.
offers an opportunity for them to continue on. We can serve these kids, which is another unique feature, until they're 22, sometimes 24, with our partnerships with Workforce Investment. We're getting job training for these kids, so that's the next carrot that we had to provide a few years ago, which is, hey, I'm leaving the school because I need to get a job. What if we could get you training in this, that, or the other, and a certificate in some type of alternative opportunity like welding or something like that we have partners with.
Right.
And you can get a great job. Would you stay with us? And a lot of what we found is we started getting way more kids keeping at it, because if they stayed with us, we're going to connect them with all these other partnerships. But to your point, you are definitely going to get students who come to our school with this personalized education where they literally feel like it's private, but it costs nothing. And safety, you mentioned safety.
Yes.
Sad part about it is when we get, we're WASC accredited every couple of years. We have a group that comes in, they interview our staff, and they interview the kids.
Yes.
And they say, what do you like about your school? And unfortunately, the number one thing that they like about it isn't our great teachers, and you've got some really good ones. We've got some amazing teachers.
Yes.
The number one thing they love about our school is they feel safe.
Yeah.
Which tells me that they didn't feel safe wherever they were.
Right.
And a lot of that has to do with gang
and
violence.
many of these kids are out on the streets. They may have a house, but they live on the streets almost completely, and they're not in school. So you're not taking kids away from the current public schools.
That's right.
The other public schools, I should say. You're helping a number of them get back into the idea of school. And then I know for a long time, you've been returning kids to regular public schools instead of the charter, because they started feeling, I'm capable, I can make it.
That's right. That young freshman that got pregnant.
Yeah.
Because we're year round also, which is another key component of our schools.
Really neat.
We can catch them up, and about 12 to 15% of our kids are going back to graduate with their friends on time, because we caught them back up, and they want to go back and graduate with their friends as seniors.
And they would not have been in school at all.
And the school district would have lost that funding forever.
Yes.
Had we not captured that kid, got them caught up, and sent them back. So credit recovery is another, word that's used to the kind of schools that we do. And that's the truth. We capture and recapture credits for these kids so they can get back on.
Well, in fact, you've created a situation where some public schools who couldn't provide certain things, you stepped up and provided those opportunities for kids, and then they went back to their regular public school anyway.
That's right.
So it's pretty amazing the flexibility that you have. And think about, you don't choose typical school sites in neighborhoods. You choose shopping centers and places where bus routes are freely available, all of those kinds of things to establish your schools.
Yeah, we found right away that obviously we don't have buses. So we don't have those resources. So we needed to make sure we're able to get kids to school. So a couple things that, again, my Six Sigma background, when looking at the data after talking to kids, saying, hey, what are your challenges to getting to this school? And, we had students that were dropping out saying, hey, I just can't get here. I got to take 3 buses to get to this location.
Isn't that amazing? The
data showed that we had about a 3.5 mile radius around our centers. And if we didn't get within that radius, we were going to have trouble trying to get our kids there. So we wanted to be near buses in order to make that happen.
Well, and Manchester here, one of your, amazing sites is right in the headquarters of where the bus transportation, the hub is right here. So kids can get in and out from any place in the city and the county and around and get to school without any trouble.
Well, and think about this. After the kid finishes his appointment, we're in a mall.
Yeah.
The businesses around it get, visited by the kids, so that they go get food.
Their
parents drop them off and then go shop and spend money while they're doing it.
Yeah.
But it feels safe.
It does.
Here at this location, and kids love it.
It is really good. Well, folks, you're listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. And our guest today is Skip Hanson from Lifelong Learning. And we're going to hear a lot more about public charter schools and the good things that they offer for your kids if you're interested. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Powell to the People. Write it down.
Facebook friends, thank you so much for sticking with us. This is really a fascinating subject when you think about it, because all of you know kids that are not comfortable in their regular schools or are not in school at all. They've dropped out. Well, this is a place they can get caught up and get back in. And it's Crescent View Charter Schools are right here in Manchester Center. And you got a chance to do something really special for those kids. And they get a chance to be in an environment that is absolutely phenomenal. It's wonderful. We'll talk more about it.
People on the best talk in town.
Well, welcome back. Boy, it's amazing how fast this time goes. Skip, we've got Skip Hanson with us from Lifelong Learning. And, Skip, you took all that you learned in business, and it's really neat because you applied it to education, and yet the heart of education is still there. But you said, what can we do better? How can we do things that are being done elsewhere better so that our kids have an opportunity to become graduates? And I know the stories because you and I have worked together for a number of years, and I hear a lot of the really good stories, but I know that you're taking kids from the streets, and you've started a trauma resiliency program so that, you're not just addressing, okay, you're here for however long, we're going to give you some education, you go home, but we're going to help you survive out there when you are headed home. Tell us a little bit about that trauma resiliency program.
Yeah, we, everything comes back down to having great people, right? I mean, any organization that's going to be successful, if you're listening out there and you
hire well, baby,
hire the best, give them the tools they need and get out of the way. Right?
Exactly.
That's how we've kind of lived our lives here in our organization.
Yeah.
A couple of the folks that we've hired, one of them, a gentleman named Craig Beswick, he had a background in training in yoga and meditation, really interesting guy, just really always loved talking to the guy.
Yeah.
And he was a principal for one of our schools. And just like any other good organization, they share successes, right?
Sure.
They listen and they see, and I'm watching his school just do some amazing things.
And thriving.
And thriving. And more importantly, the employees. We're really happy, and some of our employees, they deal with some really awful stuff, unfortunately, heartbreaking stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not just the trauma of our students, but it's the trauma of our educators, which is the front line,
which they're going through now,
right.
Not only in charters
more than ever,
but schools across the board.
God bless our teachers.
Yes,
what they're going through, similar to our healthcare workers, they're on the front line.
They are
certainly. So, what Craig was doing before COVID hit was he wanted to create this program called TREC, I don't remember the acronym. It's Trauma Resilient Education something. Right?
Yeah.
And he wanted to certify and start creating a program that could help certify programs around the country, specifically education organizations, so that their employees could go through this training. It's really amazing stuff to help deal with the kinds of things that they deal with on the front lines.
Right.
And
because kids bring a wide variety of issues. Right to the school, and if you don't address those, it's hard to address education.
You can imagine police and our ambulance drivers. They arrive on a scene and see really rough stuff, right? So there's been a component of that in their worlds for years, helping them deal with that. But education, especially with folks, we're working with kids that human trafficked. I heard that just recently on one of your recent podcasts.
And yesterday
we have a lot of kids being human trafficked, and when you discover it and you're working with that kid, you have to, first of all, know the signs. Second of all, know how to help that person deal with some of these issues. But you also have to deal with this. You got to go home.
You're affected by it.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've implemented that over the last couple of years. Things like meditation. We have timeouts for our teachers so that they take the time to reflect. We have training to help them deal with the stress. We have support groups. They work together, and it's something we want to take to all the schools, and it couldn't be more important.
And your teachers love working for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I've talked to a lot of them. In fact, I have a niece that works for you. She just raves about the school.
Yeah. I mean, we're not perfect. Every school is only as good as their local leader. So that's our job, is to make sure from the top down we're finding the best leaders and continue to do that. And this is a tough market. We're trying to open up a school right now in South Carolina, and it's hard to find teachers, right? Math and science.
Oh yeah.
Gosh, if you're out there and you're in math, give me a call. We need you, and the kids need you.
Well, in special ed and all of those arenas, it's very, very challenging.
One quick point I want to make: I don't want to give the impression that our school is only for kids that are in trouble.
Right.
about 10 to 15% of our kids actually come to our school to move faster through the system. In fact, we have a young lady who works at the White House.
Yeah, I love
went
it.
through our school. She graduated in less than 3 years.
Yeah.
She just didn't want to go through the boxes of 4
Yeah.
years. And so she came in,
Yeah.
did all her work with us, passed the SATs, flying color, went to UCLA, and moved on. So
You got musicians,
we've got
actors,
musicians,
you name it.
athletes
Yeah,
who just
want
want
to
get through the program. So
Yeah.
it's for
Yeah.
everybody.
Skaters,
You
you
bet.
know, yeah.
You bet. But it's
Olympic style.
I would say, for my kids, it probably wouldn't have been the best. They liked their baseball team, and
Sure, the
football
tradition.
team, and while we do have some sports components, that's not our thing.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But you did a really good thing with sports because some kids, need something in that physical outlet and stuff. Tell me a little bit about how you organize some sports teams through your charter schools.
Yeah, we were, we still had kids that, that said they wanted to compete. Right?
Yeah.
So we were trying to think of where our centers are, in a mall and in a lot of business areas. We could either try and create a football team and rent facilities, which is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Or we just stuck with some of the basic ones like running,
Yeah.
track, right? So, and soccer.
Soccer.
Soccer fields everywhere.
Yes.
Not being used during the day.
Right.
In a lot of city parks and that kind of thing. So we created soccer and a track team, and we had over 80 schools. So we just supplied the shorts, and a lot of our kids don't have the shoes or the equipment, so
No,
we buy all
exactly.
that. Created our own teams. We compete. We have a national championship where we bus all the kids into the Antelope Valley and have a state championship, and we still were able to do sports.
Amazing.
And again, some kids, that's some why they like coming to school. Right?
Absolutely.
That or the arts, our job training. It's the carrots that we offer, I think,
Yeah.
that keep the kids coming back.
And you've got some kids in college,
I do.
right now. Tell us a little bit about, some that went through your program.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Some of the kids that went through, your charter schools
yeah.
that ended up in college and
Yeah,
in different unique positions.
So we, because we're preparing these kids for learning at home and learning remotely, a lot of the work that they do while they're in the centers, it's a lot like you would be in a classroom with the teacher at the chalkboard, right?
Yes.
Helping them with their homework for that day, telling them how they're going to answer these questions on this algebra. But in that process of creating this flexible schedule, we're preparing kids for college.
Yeah.
That's our hope. We get these kids through the finish line.
Absolutely.
Junior colleges, great opportunities.
Good partnerships.
You bet. We
Yep.
have great partnerships with the JCs.
Yep.
They love the kinds of kids that we're getting out to there, and they do well. Our kids do well in that environment. They're already working in a setting that feels like college and high school.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got a big chunk of our kids that are preferring to go to college and are doing well.
Well, and what you've done is you've helped those kids who would have delayed college, especially in our community colleges. They would have delayed ever going and would have been older when they tried to get in, that now can go through, get their high school diploma, and then get into the community colleges.
That's right.
So that's changed their life and their trajectory because they probably didn't think they could make it. And oftentimes they're 25 when finally they realize, hey, maybe I can make it. And they've got the desire, they didn't
That's
have
right.
when they were teenagers. But you're helping short circuit that a little bit in a positive way so that they do get into college because they got their high school diploma because they weren't ignored.
That's right. Well, and our partnerships with the JCs through concurrent enrollment,
Yes.
which is great, is allowing our kids while they're in high school to take college credits. So they arrive at their college with the credits already under their belt.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
great.
it.
It's
Good
really
stuff that's taking place. You do a lot of collaboration with districts, and I think folks need to understand that this isn't a competition in a lot of ways. It's a resource that's available so that if somebody out there has a kid that doesn't like school, just hates it for whatever reason, and we're not blaming our regular public schools, but there are kids that don't function in a school with 3,000 kids or large settings that have other interests and things can thrive in your setting.
Yeah, if you think about it, even when I was back in school, there were just some kids that just didn't make it. Right.
Right.
I remember a kid I grew up with. His only reason for going to school was a shop at the back of the district.
I know.
Where they would teach automotive.
That was it.
Because his dad owned a tire store.
Yeah.
He knew he was going to go work at his dad's tire store.
Exactly.
He didn't really think an education was even needed, but he liked coming to school with his friends, and he loved that part of it. Well, during the, over the last 10, 20 years, a lot of school districts can't afford it, don't have the space. And so those carrots just didn't exist. And you had a lot of kids dropping out for a lot of different reasons. But I will say this. I don't think the education system was ever meant that the 100% of the onus was on the teachers.
Right.
When you get home from school, there's some expectation that mom and dad are going to help out with math and science, or help them make sure just they're doing their homework.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're struggling in a poverty neighborhood with with gang lines and all kinds of different things, that's where the system just it breaks. It's being broken down more and more over the last 20 years with the gang prevalence, the poverty, the human trafficking, foster care, and the school systems. God bless them, they just weren't built to deal with all that. So you have to have help. And our kinds of schools, I believe, I wished we didn't even exist, because it would mean that every kid was graduated, right, and was successful. But we're there to catch up, those kids. Or those who want to move faster through the system, that truly want to do it in a different way, an alternative education opportunity.
Yeah,
we do it well, and I would hope, we've got great relationships with superintendents that that's how they view us, as a vehicle to help serve the whole community and do it well.
Well, and you do some technical things for kids, helping them have abilities like Microsoft Teams. And I know that you want to be certified. You can go through some of your schools.
That's right.
And they can be Microsoft certified and walk into situations that they've got a $27, $28 an hour jobs and higher.
Geek Squad, they'll take that certification all day long.
I always share with people, even in any of the career tech areas, I had a refrigerator that was broken. Okay, guy came in and fixed it, and did it in about 3 minutes. And I said, well, how much for the part? And he said, $3 for the part, $97 for knowing where to put it.
That's right.
So we all use services. We need kids that have those abilities, that love working with their hands, that are going to be good citizens, because you guys teach a lot about citizenship as well. So it's not just an isolated, get your job done in education and get out of here. But you're learning how to get along with each other.
In the next segment, let's talk about professional skills.
Let's do that. We're going to take a break real quick. You're listening to Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Powell to the People. Write it down.
One more segment to go, Facebook friends. Thanks for sticking with us. You'll like this.
On the best talk in town.
Hey, welcome back. We're so glad to have you with us today. And you're in for a special treat in this last segment. We're with Skip Hanson from Lifelong Learning, co-founder and president of it. Just some really good things are going. Skip, one of the things I like about you and about the organization is that you work with districts where you are planted. And you look for these great places in shopping centers where families can come. Bus routes are available. Kids that aren't comfortable in a traditional public school can still get their education. They can sometimes get career education at the same time while they're in that school. They can walk into jobs that are paying $27, $30 an hour. They have hope. And that's one of the things I really like is they come from a hopeless situation to hope. And all of a sudden, they've got somebody in a school that cares deeply about them. How many kids do each teacher, how many students do they work with?
Yeah, the typical caseload's between 25 and 35 kids.
See, that's amazing, folks. Yeah, and they know each kid.
They know each kid. And a traditional teacher might have 6 classes if you're a math teacher.
180
right?
kids.
180 kids. And a lot of times it's, especially if you're in an inner city school, you're dealing with classroom management. That's basically what they do is they shuttle kids from class to class.
Hard, and, very hard.
Our teachers, if the one thing feedback I get all the time is, with that small of a caseload, they're able to get to know every kid. If you were to come to, you've been to many of our graduations, right? They give they give every kid a rose, and they ask that kid to give that rose to the person that meant the most in their high school career.
Help them get through.
Right? And many times it's a teacher or a front desk person that just says hi to them every day when they walk in.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So we were talking about professional skills and job training.
Yes.
When we, about 8-9 years ago, when we committed to more than just the high school diploma, because we were losing still kids to the street who said, I just got to go get a job.
Right.
We retooled and thought, okay, well, we're going to create all these certificate programs. We could do it. We had the funds to do it. So we're going to create a program that's going to teach a kid how to use the system over here for maybe the front desk at hotels. And when they graduate, they'll have, all these, Marriott couldn't wait to hire our kids.
Marketable skills, yes.
So we kind of created, we talked and said, what are some areas around some of our schools where the employers need our kids? And down in Anaheim, where we had a school, was Disneyland, Marriott, and UPS had a big operation there. So we created this great presentation of how we wanted to approach their head of HR and say, we're going to create a training program so you're going to want to hire our kids with this certificate that they're going to get as a senior here. Yeah. So we made the presentation. We had the head of HR from all three companies in, and we pitched them. And I remember the lady from Disneyland saying, hey, look, I think your idea is great. This Disneyland 101 that your seniors will take. And the idea is even that they would get to go over to Disneyland and get to tour.
Little
where
internship
go to work,
or something.
Internship.
Yeah.
And she said, look, we've been around a long time. We have an amazing training program that we're not going to circumvent. So these kids that we hire are still going to have to go through our Disney training program. What we're struggling with, and anybody listening on the show right now is going to get this, is we're struggling with kids coming out of school today with the basic skills of showing up to an interview on time, dressed for the interview appropriately,
right,
shaking hands and looking you in the eye, right? Basic things that mom and dad taught me and you and many of our listeners that unfortunately with poverty, inner city, they're not getting a lot of that at home. So she said, if you create a course that they graduate from, that we're guaranteed that your kids are going to know that. We'll put your kids at the top of the list, because at the very least, we're going to know they're going to be prepared for an interview. Yep. So we did. We created a professional skills course. We made it, our boards committed to making it a required course before they graduate from our schools. And at the very least, if the kid doesn't finish anything with us because of whatever circumstances, they're going to walk out of there with some basic life skills that mom and dad maybe couldn't have given them because maybe they don't have a mom and dad. Right. That sort of thing. So that was really, really important. And as we moved on, we then started talking to companies about that same idea that we're on the fringe. As an example, a solar company in our Riverside location came to one of our graduations, and the young lady running it had this huge factory, and she said, can you put a school in our four walls? And I said, yeah. She says, we can't find enough installers. So we want to create a course on how to learn how to install.
Sure.
But you guys are looking for space to put your school. We're in the right area. We have bus stops. So they gave us 10,000 feet. We put our school in there till they ran out of space a year later. But the idea was kids going to that particular resource center of ours knew that they had an opportunity to be right there learning and have a job almost guaranteed as long as they could finish the program. And so that's where we're headed now. We're looking in out of state to partner with businesses, if they don't have the space in there, to put it near their institutions so that we can create classes and courses. Because, Larry, not every kid wants to go to college, right?
Nope.
And we still need welders. We still need truck drivers. You're hearing it right now. There's a shortage of every kind of labor that you can think of.
Car mechanics.
Yeah, and they're paying great money.
They really are.
And that was something back in, when I went to school, not every kid thought that was the direction they were going to go. They went the career path. Our unions are dying for welders and skilled trades, and we want to fill that up. In fact, real quick, we created this year a new nonprofit private school, specifically to deal with this idea that we can't expand fast enough just with charters.
Right.
So it's called Stanza. You can look it up, Stanza International. It's a nonprofit private school. It just got stood up this year, and we offer low tuition. And our goal is to go to churches who used to have schools that didn't, maybe they closed them down during the recession, say, let us help put a school in here and set up a private school for you. And because what we're finding is a lot of parents are upset with what's going on, and they want some options.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. So
parent choice makes a huge difference. And, one of the things you offer is a chance for parents to get that monkey off their back of trying to force a kid into school in a box that they don't feel comfortable in.
That's right.
And we've known that for years. 43 years in education taught me a lot about that. Parents are our partners. They're their first teacher. And if the parent feels good about where the kid is, the kid will succeed. And parents, you've done surveys. I know you're big on information and data.
Right.
You've done surveys, and parents love what's going on with their kids because there's no longer this battle to get them in school, and they see where the kids are going. They've got a chance in life again.
Yeah, and it's so true because these kids, I was just reading an article about our local DA here, just infuriated with stuff that's going on right now, and prosecution, all that kind of stuff. Well, a lot of this crime stems from lack of education,
right?
Not having if you don't have a high school diploma, you can't get in the military. You can't do a lot of things.
McDonald's,
right? They require it. So crime and education are so connected,
right?
And we talk about mental health. It's important. We talk about a lot of things, but if we can't stop and stem the tide of dropouts, our local DA here is going to be up
Lisa
to their neck, and
yeah.
she is doing a heck of a job.
It surely is.
But I'm telling you, COVID, we're seeing it right now. Our prisons, you hear this all the time, that they base some of our beds on our 3rd and 4th grade reading levels.
Yes.
And there's some truth to that,
There
because
is.
if they can't read by 4th or 5th grade in the right areas, it's
Yep.
it's very 6 times more likely they're not going to graduate.
Exactly.
And that has a direct connection with crime. So COVID, unfortunately, what we're seeing right now in the middle schools, we're seeing a lot of kids in inner cities in tough areas where they are not going to be at the same level, and it's going to hold them back. So we're preparing for that right now as we go forward with that.
It's amazing when we consider all of the crazy things that are going on right now with COVID, and we don't know how long it's going to last. I think schools have done a great job of trying to adjust to it, but putting every kid in the same circumstance where you're doing distance learning is really tough. Some kids can't function in that. They need people around them, those kind of things. But you've been able to recruit teachers. You've been able to recruit folks into your charter schools, public charter schools, where kids get the best. You've got credentialed people. This isn't a fly-by-night organization. Right. And it's pretty amazing how you're extending from California with your 80-plus schools out into 5, 6, 7 other states, and now beginning to expand because parents are looking for choice.
That's right.
They want an opportunity. Every parent wants their kid to succeed. And it doesn't matter whether the parent is poor or not poor, whether they have a job or don't have a job. They want their kid to be in a situation they're not in.
That's right.
When it's not a negative deal. And this gives them a chance. And I love what you did. Like, you even had a print shop where you were teaching kids how to do all kinds of things.
Working business print shop.
Absolutely, a business. And you did T-shirts with print on them, and hats and cups and all of those things. Once again, kids felt good. They were learning something they could walk away with.
That's right.
And that's kind of our goal, is to find a way to help them realize there's more after school, and your life is going to be better because you were with us.
Well, Larry, if you ever have me back, because I could talk for another 4 hours, but I believe that in the next 20 years, businesses are going to have to get involved at the high school level.
Yep.
and training and CTE, because they've been asking the schools to do it. They're no longer going to be able to ask. They can't find the workers. So the next time we'll talk about that's
CTE.
where I want to get businesses involved in this, and I think it's going to be something we're going to have.
And if you're a business out there and you're interested in this kind of stuff, charter schools are one of the avenues because they got flexibility and can do some things. So
we can build a training around your business's needs at our high school for free, so that when they graduate, they already know how to do your business. You come talk to me, we'll set it up. I had multiple businesses say, "Hey, how do I get my our skills training just to run my point of sale machine?
I love it.
Work at this or do that." So
what? You've had Skip Hanson from Lifelong Learning with us today, and what a wonderful opportunity to learn that there's more than just regular public schools. Charter schools are public schools, and they have flexibility to do some amazing things with your kids. You might want to check it out. So if you want to go to public schools charter, learnforlife.org will get you there. Listen, we're so glad you've been with us. This has been Powell to the People, where civility is always in style. We'll see you next week. Facebook folks, thanks for being with us. Really appreciate it. Share this with other folks on your Facebook friends list. Thank you so much, Skip. Enjoyed having you.